So exciting today, writing the quiz.
We are writing the quiz, our Christmas quizzes this afternoon.
Been saving bits of trivia, ideas, game plans, mixing it up. We do like to mix it up every single quiz, so it's not the same.
We would never
reuse. I've eyed up some rounds and I'm like, that was a really good idea. I'd love to do that again.
We might do the same round.
The same round, but remember the first quiz we did? I did the movie studio music intros.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
I really like that. I'd love to recycle that, but I feel like I know some people who've been to both of our quizzes are going to come, so...
We do keep it fresh.
But we've got new stuff coming today. Very excited. I even had a great idea for a new, or sort of a spin on one of our games that I would have played on the show, but I'm like, I'm going to save it for the quiz.
Very good.
As always, guys, make sure you get your tickets. Tickets for our first night on the 2nd are very nearly sold out. So if you're wanting to come on the 2nd of December, please do get your tickets now. But there are still some tickets available for the 9th of December. So if you haven't got them yet, now is the time because they are looking like they're going to sell out, which is very, very exciting. I love that room full of people as well. It really
the
did
hubbub.
well. Yeah, little L-shaped room.
Okay, guys, here we go. Start the quiz.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
It's going to be really fun. So yes, as James said, get your tickets if you haven't done already. It's going to be a really great way to end the year in true Pulp Kitchen fashion. Welcome to episode 153. Wow, look at that, James. Just barreling ahead.
Piling through the episodes.
If you haven't caught up with last week's episode, 152, where we reviewed Nora, James, what else did we review last week?
We also reviewed...
The franchise. You gave your first impressions on that.
Yeah, that was good.
And Pedro Almodovar's movie, The Room Next Door.
Thank you to everyone for all their lovely comments on our interview with Sean Baker and Mikey Madison. People saying they really enjoyed the interview. And if you haven't checked that out, it's on a breakaway clip on our YouTube as well, if you haven't caught it, or it's just within the episode. But I really enjoyed how that came out.
Great.
So it's really nice to speak to both of them. Sean Baker obviously loves films and is just a massive film nerd. Michael Madison's definitely just a really exciting actress to be speaking to and to hear about that role. A lot of people are now getting a chance to see Nora and they're getting very excited by it.
So it's out at the time of recording this Friday.
Yeah.
And we can't wait to hear people's reaction to it. And like we said, if people really want it, we can do a spoiler discussion.
Yeah.
But we've talked about it a lot. So please do check that out. We're very proud of that interview. And hopefully more to come in the future.
Yeah, I'd love to do more interview inserts into the shows for the films of that week, or sort of films ahead of their release. I think it'd be really nice to sort of supplement our chat with someone else's voice.
Yes, a guest.
Yeah,
instead of us.
As we ask the questions.
Some people say they get us confused. Some people say they still struggle. I get it.
Or they'll make a reference to something you definitely said and say, James, you said that thing. Yeah. It's like, that's not, I don't know how long you've been listening to this stuff.
James and I are two middle-class men from the South. Yeah. I get it. Like, we probably do overlap. And also because we spend so much time together.
I bet we sound so.
We do sound, but the way to remember it is, I'm sat here, you're sat there. No, I don't know how
There's
you
a moment
it.
in the Nora junket towards the end where Sean Baker makes a point about he wanted to reframe the American dream, and at the exact same time in sync we both go and our heads like Bob, like Jedward responding to a question. It made me laugh a little bit. We both had the same I agree with that very intellectual point. Allow me to join in the praise for your great film.
And don't forget, if you are a Patreon subscriber, another week, another double take for you to check out this week. We had lots to discuss this week. We had more updates of Christopher Nolan's new film. We had discussions about his work, his involvement with Joker 1, and Joaquin Phoenix may have been the Joker for The Dark Knight.
New film.
And Spider-Man 4, date confirmed. Tom Holland's going to have a very busy 2026. And also we talked about a new Edgar Wright movie coming out.
You say Blade already?
I'm about to.
Yeah.
We also talked about a new Edgar Wright movie coming out with Glenn Powell and Michael Cera, and also Blade being cancelled by Marvel after 5 years. What went wrong?
It's been cut.
It's sucked out of existence. Vampire?
I saw. Yeah.
I don't know. It's had the stake in it. Yeah. Never seen any of the Blades.
No, me neither. I think maybe I've seen Blade 1 on television, but not properly, not as a proper watcher.
So go and check that out if you subscribe to exclusive content. And don't forget, last week we did a bonus Interstellar exclusive review of 10-year anniversary. Lots of stuff happening on the Patreon. Guys, it's so much fun over there. But this week we've got another week of 3 reviews. Guys, this time of year is so great. There's so many films out. We just bundles of films for you. So 3 very different films. We have The Wild Robot. We have Emilia Pérez. And we have Venom, The Last Dance.
Whew,
we've got a film with heart, a film that's trying to go for an Oscar, and a film that's Venom. There we go. Let's get on with the reviews.
So George, The Wild Robot I managed to see. Dreamworks film, gorgeous animation style. It'd been very much under my radar, and I'd heard mutterings on like various Instagram stories, this is a film worth seeing. And I caught it the other night, and I had this moment where I saw it, and I didn't see it with anyone, and I had a really positive experience coming out of the cinema. I just felt really like warm and happy, and I was in the shower, and Talia came home, and I was like, Talia, from the shower, come in here. And she's like, what? I was like, I've just seen this wonderful film, and I'm so like, filled with joy and elation, and I'm beaming with positivity, and I just thought it was brilliant. I told her like the basic premise. She's like, oh, that sounds fantastic, and I was like, it was, and I'm in a better mood, and I feel like I'm a better person for having seen it.
Wow,
and that's Wild Robot. It stars a cast that includes, but is not limited to, Lupita Nyong'o, Kit Connor, Pedro Pascal, Bill Nye, Stephanie Hsu, Mark Hamill, Ving Rhames, Matt Berry. And Mark Hamill continues to be one of the most impressive voice actors working today. It's like if you know Mark Hamill's voice acting work, you'll go, that's Mark Hamill. But if you don't, it'd be completely lost on you that is Luke Skywalker. The Wild Robot is a gorgeous animation. The Wild Robot. The Robot is a gorgeous animation. I describe the style as, it's like 2D animation style, but with a really great sense of 3D depth, which I know you're saying that's probably just 3D, but it's not. It is sort of like a sort of watercolor, cel-shaded Monet painting, and it's just beautiful. I have a feeling they were slightly looking over at the work of Across the Spider-Verse and said, let's take that sort of style, strip the comic book pow thwop style out of it, make it more painterly and watercolor, and I think that's where the Wild Robot sits. I think I lack the vocabulary, the design vocabulary to explain it, but that's kind of the vibe. Anyway, it was like really, really beautiful to look at. And as soon as the first scenes open, it's like wonderfully sharp and bright and saturated, and it feels like it just crisps itself into your eyes, and it's a real feast for the eyes. And it's actually, I'm probably someone who very happily dances on the tombstone of 3D technology, but I imagine this would have been a really cool film to see in 3D. Anyway, gorgeous to look at, very stimulating. The Wild Robot is all about a robot called Roz, or Rosa for something code. She crashes onto an island, a lush island with forests and canyons and waterfalls, and is immediately greeted by the very hostile wildlife. The animals are very scared to see her. And there's a very sort of like, it's a community, but they're very suspicious of each other. And she is attacked and rolled and pushed out of the community. And she's a learning robot. She's a protocol robot. So she immediately opens up her pod and says, hi, how can I help you today? You must need assistance. I am Roz. And her protocol is to do whatever someone tells her to do. But in this island with animals, nobody needs this robot. And there's a sort of mystery as to why did this robot crash land on this island in the first place? And where did she come from, and what does she want? And so she realizes that she doesn't speak any of the languages that the animals speak. So she goes into a sort of state of observation, sort of a cryosleep, and listens to weeks to all the languages of the animals until she learns exactly how they talk and she can speak to the animals. In an altercation with a bear, she ends up crashing into the nest of a gosling and finds a lone, abandoned egg, and immediately feels like she needs to protect this egg. And inside the egg is a little gosling chick who's kind of the runt of the litter. And she meets some of the other mothers of the forest, and is like, I don't know what to do with this egg. I'm not a mother. And one of the characters says, well, no one of us really know what to do. We just kind of make it up as we go along. And once realizing that this is a gosling chick that's hatched, the other animals are saying, oh, that gosling, the hibernation's coming up in the autumn. That gosling needs to learn how to eat, how to swim, and how to fly. And if it can't learn that, it's going to be big trouble. So her new prime directive becomes, I have to teach this little baby gosling how to do the basic survival techniques. And she bumps into Pedro Pascal's Fink, who is a crafty little fox who doesn't have many friends, and realizes that there's a lot to be had in helping others. And that's kind of like the opening of the film. And I thought this film was absolutely brilliant. Yeah. I started it thinking, oh, is this a kids film? Not like sort of for everyone. Would I find that much enjoyment in it? Is it just going to try and break my heart and leave me to dust? But no, I think this really is fun for the whole family. It reminds me a lot of Wall-E, Across the Spider-Verse as well, and kind of Avengers Endgame.
Really?
Oh, totally, especially in the second half. It's just brilliant. The score especially is fantastic. Music by Chris Bowers will leave you heartbroken and crying into your sleeve, jumping for joy, fist bumping the air, and just with a really warm sense of happiness. It's really brilliantly done,
Oh,
and I just have nothing but praise for this film. I hope you don't sleep on it, and I think you should go and see it on the biggest screen you can if you get the chance. And it sort of does what I think the film was going to do in its first half, and there's a montage in the middle which really made me weep. And I was really realizing I'm really enjoying this film, and I was like, oh, are we done here? But no, that's only the first half. And I think it takes its central idea and goes, we could have just told that type of story. Let's go and have a lot more fun with this idea. Let's expand our world. Let's fill it out with something more and tell something a little bit grander, a little bit more epic. And it does that in the second half. And it's just a lovely, warm hug of a film. And it's this idea that even if you're a little bit small or a little bit weaker than other people, if your heart can make up the difference, that's all that really matters, and you're going to be just fine. And Lupita Nyong'o absolutely kills it as Roz, and just broke my heart. Even somehow robots, they have this robotic way of speaking. Basically what happens in the opening is that she has a sort of a sentient brain, which is all about prime directives, but she has to realize that she's using a different part of her programming to look after this child, and that's like obviously a sentience that's been discovered, and that is the whole thing about, if we only connect to each other with more love. It's beautiful, it's action-packed, it's funny. It's gorgeous to look at. It's just everything you want from these types of films. I think if the whole world saw it, I think we'd be in a happier, better place.
Oh wow, this is fantastic!
It's currently got 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think it's close to being in my group of favorite films of the year. It's really good. So go and check out The Wild Robot.
Do you know what? It's great. Is that I've like you, a lot of praise. I've heard a lot of things about it, and I haven't had a chance to catch it for various reasons, like because I had to see the film we're going to review next, and it's one of those films though that is not a chore. I look at it and I'm like, this isn't a chore for me to watch. I'm looking forward to watching this. And obviously you just encouraged me. That's why I'm absolutely determined to try and watch this before the end of the year so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
And become part of the discussion. And a discussion because people have written in about this. This is an email from Declan, friend of the show, who's written in with a very personal note at The Wild Robot. Dearest gentlemen of Pulp Kitchen, I implore you to watch The Wild Robot. This movie is the greatest of the year. I've just come out of a screening and I haven't cried so much at the cinema. I don't think ever. For me, this was a huge, emotionally impactful film as a robot rewrites her programming and for context, I was extremely close to my grandma and she truly inspired me to become the creative person I am today. She was my Roz in a way. Today is the 1-year anniversary of her death. I went home to see my dad and my dog, and then I saw the film. I had aimed to see it at my home cinema's IMAX, but the bus was late, so I accepted that I just have to go see it in regular old 2D. Now, a few years ago, before my grandma passed away, I took her to see what I knew at the time would probably be her last film at the cinema, to go and see Mary Poppins Returns. We saw it on opening weekend, and it was in Screen 1, which is the biggest of the screens. Because my bus was late to see The Wild Robot, I had to see it in that very same screen, in Screen 1. I sat adjacent to where we had sat, him and his grandmother, to watch this movie, almost 5 years since her last cinema experience. And I discovered the greatest film for me that this year had to offer. It was like she was saying goodbye and sending her love. That's how it felt, like cinematic magic. My heart is beating hard and fast, and that's what a great film should do. I really wanted to share this with you both and the Sirens because she may have started my creativity, but you two and this community is keeping it alive with every review you release. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for reading. I really hope you do go see it. More than that, though, I hope you take the time to appreciate the beauty of the film in your own ways, whether it be emotionally or the glorious animation or the sensational voice cast or something else entirely. This one has it all, I'd say. We've all had a motherly figure. We've all had a Roz. Much love from me. Wishing you a wonderful October. And Grandma, thank you. Best wishes, Declan. Sirens on my end, listening to the Mary Poppins soundtrack on the way home.
Yeah, it's incredibly emotional, but it's and I did cry, I think, 2 or 3 times, which is a lot. But it's ultimately a really positive and happy movie, and you come out of it just with a really sweet emotional catharsis of like, oh, I've just watched something incredibly emotionally nourishing, and you're just beaming and filled with warmth.
I can't wait to
echo
see
everything there.
It's glowing really, review from James there. I absolutely can't wait.
I think I would enjoy it. I didn't think it would be sort of circulating in my top films of the year when I finished it, but very high praise from me.
If anyone else has seen The Wild Robot and would like to write in their thoughts, please email them in to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com and we'll read them out. A gear change now. Let's talk about Emilia Pérez, which is a sort of tipped Oscar contender movie. It's a Netflix movie that's currently having a cinematic release and coming out on Netflix on November the 13th. I saw it bizarrely in a 35mm presentation, Central London yesterday, which was quite strange when the Netflix logo first pops up and the dun, 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 you know, the sort of Asgardian Netflix logo that it does, but it's in crisp sort of 75mm.
That's really strange. Yeah. That will have like had to have been printed on film.
Yes,
it's a digital. It's inherently a digital project.
Yeah. I know. So
that is funny.
But people might have seen this talked about. Emilia Pérez, like I said, hotly tipped as an Oscar contender for this year. It's a French production, but set in Mexico, directed by Jacques Audiard. I think I've got his name here. Just want to make sure I get it absolutely right, because otherwise, what am I even doing here if I can't get the director's name right? It is directed by, yes, Jacques Audiard, and it is who directed a film called A Prophet, which is really good with Tahar Rahim, things like Rust and Bone as well. Emilia Pérez, how to describe it, is an epic crime musical melodrama starring Zoe Saldana, Selena Gomez, and I want to get her name right, Carla Sofia Gasson. So, Emilia Pérez is about a disillusioned lawyer played by Zoe Saldana working in Mexico City who is defending very corrupt people. And the musical element of this film is introduced very early on as kind of like almost like a Greek choral thing, that she's trying to write her defense testimony and it's becoming frustrated. And often in this film where words fail, music takes over. And which works, by the way, in a much more justified way than it would in Joker 2. It was interesting to see how the transitions into musicality completely work. And so she walks the streets of Mexico City thinking up her argument, and the sort of chorus of people around her in Mexico City join in and join out, and it's this sort of very intense, very articulate type of musicality and lyrics. She is this disillusioned lawyer who is then recruited by a drug kingpin, the head of a huge drug cartel, who enlists her to fake his death and help him transition into becoming a woman and having a new life. It also stars Selena Gomez as the drug kingpin's wife. And it's that premise, which I wasn't aware of, and some descriptions of the film have even left out that description. I think that is the whole premise. I have to leave that in there. It's quite a wild.
Intentional.
I think maybe to keep it vague, but that's in the same way it would be the premise for any film. It comes in like 25 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
So you have this very stylish, big, bold vision about this huge life change centering on this trio of women and the drug kingpin's transition into becoming Emilia Pérez, the character of the title. This is a very bizarre film, very, very baffling. And I want to try to respect and praise what it has going for it, which is just, it's one of the most bold films of the year. And like in the same way that when we saw Kneecap, we were like, wow, this is refreshing and different. I do have that with Emilia Pérez. Like this use of music, and it's very, very stylish and looks fantastic, and the performances are incredible. It's really interesting. And like I said, the use of music and the breaking into the song works. It's not like, sometimes they're songs, but sometimes it's a bit like, if anyone's seen The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, where it's like the conversation just suddenly has a lyrical lilt to it, where the music will just suddenly take over the words. Okay. It's a film about rebirth and trying to move on from your past. And also, I think it's framing this, the sort of the transition side of the story is kind of framing this idea of rebirth around drug-related violence in Mexico and the legacy of violence, and how can you get rid of the blood from your past. However, it wasn't really for me. I did find this a bit of a drag, which is a real shame, because you've got a really stylistically brilliant, very cinematic-looking piece of work that's got a lot of praise.
Interesting, yeah.
And I was really hoping this would take my breath away. I personally found it a little bit inert. I thought the story was kind of very simplistic and basic underneath all the stylistic kind of overtures. Didn't really give me enough meat. There's a slight disadvantage, I think, in watching it as an English language viewer, in that the very, very intense, articulate lyricism of the musical bits are subtitled in a way that I think completely breaks the music. It's not an error. It's not the subtitling itself. It's the fact that in just being subtitled, I think it seems clunky. You're listening to this very, very dense, almost rap, and then it's being broken down for you in text, and you're reading it, and you're not looking at the dancing, and you're reading it, and it's not quite fitting. Right, it just kind of, I think it loses the charm of the...
And ironic you bring up Niekamp, where obviously like the translation of their music is so wonderfully displayed in... Obviously it's about translating that language, but how playful they were with that and writing it in lines of like coke and ketamine or something.
So that's a bit of a shame.
I'm trying to think of, sorry, just we got like other non-English musicals that have lyrics where that might be a factor. Do you know what I mean? Because is that like a new... For us, like to see a song that's now transcribed in English on the screen in front of you.
Not recently,
much,
at least. But so that's a slight disadvantage, I just think. So I came away thinking, I was disappointed because obviously this is a big, like they're pushing it as an awards contender, and I wanted it to be bold and impressive. It left me a bit cold. I found it a bit of a drag. It didn't do much for me. However, I'm aware that what it's doing is it looks like it's trying to do something interesting, and I would be open. I'm open to the idea that there are ideas and themes in this film that might not just be working for me personally. It also might not be my kind of film, and I would love to hear from people. I'd like to hear from Mexicans whether about it resonates with them on the theme on the topic of drug-related violence in the country. In fact, I'd like to hear from Spanish speakers in general whether just by being able to watch it in Spanish, you lose that kind of break with the subtitling. I'd like to hear from people who are closer to the topic of transitioning genders, about whether that resonates with them. For me, a bit inert and a quite curious thing. I came away with a very cynical, this is very, very cynical, idea that Netflix looked at this film and said, that looks like it's going to give us the ultimate prestige. I don't think anyone's going to watch it on the platform.
Like Maestro.
But it's like, people will say, you don't support cinema. And go, well, we did this Spanish
gorgeous,
language.
Independent.
Spanish
look at the cinematography, sir. How dare you?
Like, look how bold this film looks.
Colour, pink.
So on a carousel, and when Ted Sarandos goes up and talks about it, it looks fantastic. Yeah. But as an actual viewing experience, I've seen some reviews in like sort of main media that have been quite complimentary of it. I've seen other reviews that have absolutely like given it 1 star and said this just doesn't work. I will say that the performances are the thing to hold on to. It's got Edgar Ramirez in it as well. As an actor I really like, but he's almost unrecognizable in it. I'm just like, that guy looks like Edgar Ramirez. And then at the end I was like, oh, it's him. So someone go out there, when it comes out, tell me what you think. I think people are going to struggle to watch this on Netflix. I think people are going to lose a lot of patience. I think it's going to struggle to find its audience on Netflix. But there you go. That's Emilia Pérez. That's one of the awards contenders this year.
I had an eye on it, and I was looking forward to seeing that we had sort of like it was on our sort of slightly anticipated list. And I think I will still see it, especially if it's in sort of the conversation for Best Picture. But it's a shame to hear that, especially when it is the type of thing you want to be seeing on that critically acclaimed films folder that Netflix has got. These are all really great options to have. But yeah, guys, if you've managed to see Emilia Pérez, please do send in your thoughts as always to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com. We'll read them out on a future episode.
I'd love it if someone wrote in and said, I'm from Mexico, and this film actually massively moved me. It really resonated. It's drawing on an oral tradition, a musical tradition that's deep-rooted. I'd be like, great, because that is clearly lost on me.
And representations of Mexican drug crime in cinema has typically been very one-dimensional and a little bit sort of surface exploration of that issue. So it's a shame.
And it's like some of it's melodramatic, so you can kind of excuse it. But anyway, that was Emilia Pérez. Yes, let us know your thoughts. Okay, again, another gear change. Venom, The Last Dance. Third film in the Venom trilogy. Tom Hardy returns as Eddie Brock / Venom. By the way, do you think the inspiration for doing Venom was like Vincent D'Onofrio, Men in Black?
Water. Sugar.
Kind of giving that.
It was a bit, wasn't it?
Anyway.
I don't think they thought about cinematic references when making this film.
Venom The Last Dance, directed by Kelly Marcel. Previously, the second one was directed by Andy Serkis. First one, Ruben Fleischer. So third director to come along to it. We begin with Eddie Brock in Mexico on the run, laying low. There's a brief 5 seconds where he begins the film in the MCU world, and then at the end of No Way Home, and then is sucked back through the portal and is back in his world.
We don't have the rights to do anything other than a scene at this bar.
He would like to make his way to New York to clear his name, but in the process of doing so, he is waylaid and spends a lot of time in the movie in Nevada, in the Nevada desert, where he is being pursued by Chiwetel Ejiofor as General Strickland, a guy, he's a general with an axe to grind. Is there any other kind? Juno Temple, who is a curious scientist who had something in her past and is interested about symbiotes. And there's also a scientist with a Christmas tree lapel because there's also Stephen Graham as a character from the second film who they needed to deliver some exposition, so they brought him back for this one and they keep him in a big box. And then Risa Fans, who might confuse some people.
God bless Risa Fans.
For
Spike from Notting Hill.
Yeah, and in Amazing Spider-Man.
Amazing Spider-Man. He's
as a disillusioned scientist driving his family on a journey to Area 51, which is being shut down. And they're all there to see the aliens. Meanwhile, Eddie and Venom have this kind of buddy, anarchic relationship, codependent thing. But from outer space, from the heavy expositional opening of outer space, we get creatures that are coming to find the symbiotes on planet Earth because they, within them, hold a codex which will unleash a greater evil.
Remember codexes from Justice League? They're coming back.
Yeah, so there's a big bad up in space who's sending his big bad monsters down to look for Venom and the symbiotes. That's the premise. It's called The Last Dance. It is the final one of the trilogy. There is dancing in it as well. Have I missed anything out, James?
You've actually said so much more about the plot than I remember. I think it's really crap. I think it's actually just really very disappointing, actually. And I want to say that this film actually felt very small. This isn't some like big, huge, bombastic action film. I actually sort of took a step back and thought, this is really just a few days in a big studio or on a desert. I really didn't feel like there was anything fun or popcorn or epic about it.
Very contained to the desert.
It's barely got a plot. I feel like the opening scene with Null felt like it put PlayStation 3 game opening cutscenes to shame. It was seriously, seriously poor. You know, I said this to you a couple of weeks ago. I was like, oh yeah, I guess they're doing a third one. And I was almost a little bit disappointed that this is now 3 films that's taken up a great actor like Tom Hardy's time. And it's not that there's anything...
It's kept him in the mainstream, though.
It's kept him in the mainstream, but I'm almost just a bit like, you're a very good actor. You're very good in The Bike Riders and other things. I think you could just be up to more interesting things. I understand that the 3 films have probably paid him excess of $50 million, so I understand the reasons why. But it's not funny. I think the plot is basically non-existent. For some reason, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Stephen Graham, and Juno Temple
a heavy British cast, by the way.
Yeah,
and
true,
Risa
actually.
Fans and Tom Hardy, of course.
Literally, Andy Serkis
and
as
Kelly
well.
Marcel, the director, is... yeah, it's a heavily British.
Yeah, they kept it in the family. For some reason, these really great actors who otherwise work with very talented directors, not that it's director talent, I just mean on more interesting projects, are doing this. The dialogue's terrible. It's not funny.
No.
It makes the worst mistake, which I feel like we'd move past, of having your action scene be 2 mushy CGI things just bashing into each other.
Bits of goo.
You've no sense of where one person ends and where the other begins, so you're just completely disengaged in the action. I think it's crap.
I will just say, I've never seen a Venom film before, and I sort of we ended up going to see this, and I don't have a lot to say about it because I recognise that as I haven't seen the other 2, I don't have a lot to draw on. It's not made for me. I'm not really that interested in it. But I will say this. After seeing Megalopolis, which I think has kind of completely course-corrected my whole thing, which I saw this about a week after.
This is like the zone of interest.
Yeah, by comparison. I would say that I agree with everything you've said. It is nonsense, but I went in thinking that, and I thought it's just about watchable nonsense.
Right.
You know, I sat there and I sort of zoned out a little bit and I sort of blurred my eyes and it was happening, but it didn't really make it moved quickly.
You say zoning out and blurring your eyes. I think if you enjoy smoking shitloads of weed and you've got to put something on while you're having a mild panic attack, I would put on Venom: The Last Dance, because you don't have to concentrate so hard, but the visuals are ever so slightly strange and the scenes move around, and if you're really baked, maybe there's some value in it. But
I would say that's what I'm saying. I agree with everything you said, but it's also just kind of inoffensive.
Yeah,
right?
it's not the most offensive thing. I just find it really poor, actually. And I think what was interesting is in my screening, which granted was an invite multimedia screening, there were a decent chunk of people laughing at a lot of the jokes and laughing in a way that was louder than they needed to because they wanted the rest of the auditorium to know that they found something funny, which makes it way less funny for anyone else in it. Anyway, but like there are people who found it amusing. They found the idea of just like making a symbiote horse hilarious. I don't personally see what's so funny about that.
No.
So yeah, I wouldn't see it. I wouldn't give it a chance personally. It's a bit of a shame.
There's so many other
There's so many
films.
other great films. That's when I look at a film and go, oh, it is dying, this cinema thing. It is just like the worst. When I took my sister to see Interstellar, we saw a trailer for Venom 3. And she just turned to me and she went, that looks absolutely awful.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm seeing it next week. It probably is.
And it's kind of performed very sluggishly in terms of box office. So
Yeah.
it's not like it's got legs on it still. And there's sort of hints of, I don't know. I didn't stay for any post-credit scene.
There are post-credit scenes.
Was it worth sticking
no.
around for? Yeah. Cool. Anyway, that was Venom: The Last Dance. If you disagree with us, or even if you agree with us, send us your thoughts to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. But what 3 different films we've had to talk about today?
Completely different.
You couldn't make it up. This cinema thing has some legs, but in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Let's get on with some emails.
George, should we go through some of the emails that we get sent into the show every single week? As always, guys, if you support us at the VIP tier on Patreon, you can have priority access to have your email read out on the show. Or if you don't want to support us, that's okay. You can just send in your review to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com and we'll read it out on the show. Just like Jess did. Jess writes into the show and says, hello to you both, subject to The Apprentice, etc.
Reviewed The Apprentice in episode 151 2 weeks ago. Go check that out. 4 movies in 1 week we did for the London Film Festival.
Jess goes on to say, hello to you both. I just saw a screening of The Apprentice, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I don't think I would have seen it if it wasn't for your recommendation, so thank you.
Okay.
When I asked the lady sitting across from me what they thought of the film, they said that it was scary. I agree. I appreciate that Sebastian Stan didn't go over the top in his impersonation, but gave just enough trump that I felt irked. Jeremy Strong was fantastic. The hollowness of his eyes nearing the end of the film, chef's kiss. The trailers before the film were intriguing. I definitely want to catch a real pain when it comes to cinemas on Boxing Day, probably later due to my regional city, but I was mostly interested in the Robbie Williams film. It looked much more exciting than the new Robert Zemeckis' Here, which, while surely visually beautiful, doesn't appeal to me as much as the Better Man trailer. I'm not sure that I need Robert Zemeckis to explain nostalgia to me. Maybe I do. Anywho, thanks as always for the pod. It has inspired... Sorry, that TV is just flickering on and off. It has inspired me to start a film club at my workplace. This month we saw The Wild Robot in cinemas, which we all enjoyed. Have you seen it? And The Hunt for the Wilder People on Netflix. Classic film. Haru, Jess from Toowoomba, Australia. P.S. Re-Celebrity Lookalikes, one of your recent episodes, James, you've always reminded me of Dev Patel.
I've said this to you before. I've said this before you reminded me of Dev Patel.
He does. He's got a sort of like long mane going on here. And George, I'm so sorry, but you're the vine of the person saying they don't look like Chicken Little. Google if necessary. Enjoy your evening.
So I'm not familiar with it. James gets A-list celebrity. What do I get? Oh, here we go, Jess. Jess, we were getting on so well. We were getting on so well.
Have you seen it?
No, show it to me.
I mean, it's not only. I would never have thought that.
Chicken Little. I look like Chicken Little.
I guess the glasses.
I don't understand. Jess.
You've made an enemy of George there. But on The Apprentice...
You stay in Toowoomba.
My mate said, I saw you review The Apprentice. Like, should I go and see it? And I was like, yeah, I think you should go and see it.
Yeah.
It's really interesting and worth having a conversation about. It's probably different to what you thought it was going to be. And he called up with me and he said, yeah, that was actually quite challenging and interesting. And it is that. I hold on to that review.
Jess, I like the fact that you reached across the aisle and spoke to another patron
that is
at the cinema to say, what do you think of the movie? I've never done that because...
No, I'm not
there to make friends.
Yeah. Yeah. And then on the Robbie Williams film, we will get to it. We sort of not had the chance to see it ahead of time, but...
it's not out for another 2 months, so we are trying to see a preview with. But yeah, what a wacky concept that looks like. Next up is from Luke. Luke says, hi gents, Luke here. Massive congrats on reaching 150 episodes. Thank you. Just a quick one. I was wondering, after listening to your LFF podcast, London Film Festival, what is the thinking/reasoning for different film release dates around the world? Typically, US versus Europe. Assuming it's studio-led, keep up the great work. It is invaluable listening when I am slowly making my way around the M25 on my commute. Thank you, Luke.
It's about money, and it's about the stars being available to do promotion for films.
I think it's partly that. I think it's actually also to do with awards calendars this time of year. Oh, sorry, because I was just thinking. Sorry, I'm thinking specifically for these kind of films at London Film Festival.
Oh, fine. Sorry.
I was thinking so. What happens at the moment is a lot of films will be released in October. Like a good example is We Live in Sirens Around. A good example is We Live in Time, the Andrew Garfield Florence Pugh movie, out currently in the US, not out in the UK until January. Big split there. Now, that's for a couple of reasons. The awards thing is that in order to be eligible for the Oscars in the US, the film has to come out in 2024 to qualify for the 2025 Oscars, right? But that doesn't have to be the case in the UK because to qualify for the BAFTAs, I think it has to have come out before the end of January. I think that's right there. Also, what happens is these films are technically a bit smaller, so they will use the hype and the momentum of being released in autumn in the US to then build towards a splash in UK/Europe, right? You are also right. Star availability is key. Yeah. You can get 2 bites of the cherry if you split it out. I think also what happens is with certain smaller films, like take A Real Pain, for example, which I don't know if that's out in the States yet, but like you get a little bit of a release in the festivals, but sometimes films like make their debut in Venice.
You get a temp check on the quality of the film as
people
well.
Go, oh, that's actually really good. We'll buy that. We'll put it out. We've got a slot. We can put it out in the US sooner, but let's put it out in the UK in the new year. So I would say it's definitely a studio sanctioned strategy, all about getting maximum PR value about it, and also trying to align, as you say, schedules between stars and awards dates. It's
like where you get those for the really big films, you get those Wednesday releases instead of Friday because you could have your Gladiator 2 cast in Los Angeles on Wednesday for the premiere, and then you bring them to London for the Friday, for example. You get 2 premieres out of them. They also get to call their opening weekend from Wednesday till Sunday. It's the largest ever opening weekend.
It's also good. Gladiator 2 is coming out on the 15th in the UK, but the 22nd, a week later, for the rest of the world. Now, I find that really interesting. Why they do that?
So will that be...
is it availability of talent? Is it to give it... do they think Gladiator will be better reviewed, better received in the UK so they can say...
I reckon it'll be out and they'll be doing press. I think they've already done press, but they'll be doing premieres and press that week, right? The premiere will be probably on the Tuesday or the Wednesday. Then they'll immediately go and do the same thing in Los Angeles and the same thing in another territory.
But why release it a week earlier in the UK?
Because I think they want to take them on tour. I reckon they've got a week-long tour of press. Do you not think?
So that's why they do a big UK read as Europe. So
I reckon they've got a week, 1 to 2 weeks of being at a premiere, doing junkets, release, Q&As, and then you fly to the next territory, and they might do UK, East Coast, West Coast, and then somewhere else. They could do like Germany, for example. You don't know.
That's part of the reason, Luke. I think that explains it. So yeah, interesting.
This next one is from Ryan, who writes in with subject line, hype affecting rating. Hi guys, continuing to love the podcast and big congrats on surpassing 150 episodes.
Thank you.
Still got a lot of the back catalogue to catch up on and can't wait to do so. Since the release of Joker Folie à Deux, I noticed that a lot of people have rated it super low. Now, I myself did not enjoy the movie as a whole purely for the storyline, but the overall visuals and acting I think were fantastic. However, I don't think it is as simple as quite as bad as some of the reactions and ratings I have seen. This has led me to think about the fact that because it was such a hyped project throughout its development and one of the most anticipated movies of the year, that the resulting disappointment has affected its rating. Do you guys think hype affects how movies are rated, and should people be taking this into consideration? I look forward to entering the kitchen every Wednesday to listen to a great discussion.
Entering the kitchen, I like that.
Yeah, welcome. Godspeed. Ryan. It definitely was one of the most anticipated films of the year. When we did Film Bites, we asked a lot of people what their most anticipated film was. It was Joker 2. And I think there is I don't think you can take that into consideration. At the end of the day, we are all a version of the films that came before it, subject to its marketing and the experience you have on the day. I do think, like, ultimately, if you check our review, we're disappointed that film didn't rise to the occasion and do something more interesting with its sequel now that it had people's attention.
Yeah, I think the only thing that might have exacerbated the backlash and people's reaction is that some corners of the internet are so protective over the IP. Yeah. And that they once they sniffed that once they had blood in the water and they realized this was a dud, they felt angry and offended that this thing had been ruined for them. Yes. And they really wanted to twist the knife.
I think it makes the first film feel less interesting and impactful, personally. I think it makes rewatching the first film a little bit more of a null exercise because I feel like the straws they're clutching at for ideas feel less rooted in I don't know, something true and interesting, which is a shame.
This next email is from Aramid, who writes in and says, "Hi, James and George / George and James. I'd just like to start by saying I absolutely love your podcast.
Thank you.
I'm a new listener from Nigeria. Hello
Nice.
to Nigeria.
Amazing.
And I'm absolutely loving these episodes. I'm more of a TV person myself, and I've recently really gotten into British TV and started watching a show called Brassic. Which
Great
I find,
podcast. More of a TV guy myself.
Yeah.
But keep trying.
watching a TV show called Brassic, which I find so hilarious. Not seen it, but I'm aware of it. Nice. It's meant to be. It's got Joe Gilgan in it, which I really like.
Yeah.
2 questions for you guys. If you could live in any TV show world, which would you want to live in? And 2, what are some classic feel-good British shows that you can recommend for someone who isn't British? Keep up the good work. Really hope you get to see this. Love from Tinwola. On the second question first, about feel-good British shows, that's a bit of an oxymoron because some of the best British shows aren't feel-good or dry and sarcastic. And so obviously, if you'd say good British shows, there's a taste of the culture. So yeah, In-Betweeners or something. Gavin and Stacey, I think, is a really nice balance of being feel-good, funny, a slice of British life.
So easy to watch.
Good writing. But Gavin and Stacey has really nice writing for the arcs of the characters. So check out that.
It like captures like an idea of middle-class Britain that isn't super cringe. It's like kind of...
It's just everyday life, bit of Wales. You know, it's like a very inter-UK culture clash between Welsh and English, and specifically Essex English. It's lovely. And James, do you have any to add to the pile before we go on to the other question?
No, I concur.
Thank you. And a TV show world, which would you want to live in? We've had similar questions as before. If you want to be in a TV show, you want to be an extra in a TV show.
Yeah.
If you want to live in a TV world.
I think it'd be fun to be in like House, where like every week a new like mystery disease comes in, you get to solve it. it's like
you are House. You're not the ill person.
Or like just one of his I'm not the ill person every week. Like one of his doctor's assistants, and it's like it's not lupus. It's got to be something else, and he cracks the case. I think that'd be fun.
I don't know about TV shows, even though you are a TV man yourself, as you say, Aramid.
Or Friends. I'd like to like.
Yeah, I was going to say like a 90s Dewey rom-com. It doesn't have to be TV. It could be
different time.
Films.
Meeting in a cafe.
Just everything. It's always the weather's always great.
Yeah.
The fashion's
The
always
apartments are
lovely,
big.
but it feels lived in. It's comfy and cozy. When Harry Met Sally, just live in that.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Anyway. Thank you
Can't
very
say
much.
like the In-Betweeners or Peep Show.
I don't want to live in the In-Betweeners. I
feel like I did.
It's too real.
Yeah. This last one is from Kieran, who writes in about the evolution of cinema. Hi, James and George, brackets, George and James.
Big title.
Kieran from Leicester, formerly of York here, long-time listener, first-time emailer.
Hello.
Been a long-time fan. That long that I had to try Cacio e Pepe back in episode 3.
Wow, you are
absolutely
a first-timer.
Yeah. I absolutely love the journey you two have been on, and it's impressive to see your natural and rightly deserved rise in fame and popularity grow and grow each week. That's a rise in fame. Let's just play it down a bit there. Just a quick question from me. Well, Kieran, here's the thing about fame. Just a quick question from me. In episode 149, you spoke about the perfect place to sit in a screening, right at the back with binoculars, in my opinion, and it got me thinking about the future of cinema. Yeah,
like one of those kids who always had to go to the back of the bus because they felt cool.
Yeah, binoculars. I mean, already you're sort of
That's
not selling me on it.
He's not actually taking binoculars.
Yeah, I know, but like the idea that you're so far back that you...
Maybe you have one of those coin-operated binoculars you get at the theatre,
Chic little...
Yeah, the Pesme,
yeah. I think we should do more like the Abe Lincoln seats on the side. That should be more of a thing in cinema.
Who wants to sit in a box seat at a theatre?
No, yeah.
Awful seats.
Yeah. Have you ever done it?
No.
I've done it.
Yeah, you told me. You were sick. Off of
Oh, yeah. Great story.
Different story for another time.
I think I told it on the show, to be fair. Anyway, well, it's got me thinking about the future of cinema in general. We are in an age of constant rapid modernization, and I was just curious to hear your thoughts. Sorry, I'm just thinking about being sick on people. And I was curious to your thoughts on how cinema chains can adapt and improve by keeping movies interesting and exciting. Obviously, the films themselves will attract the crowds, but with the likes of locations such as the Sphere in Las Vegas and the COSM in Dallas and LA, there is the potential for advancements and improvements. What are your thoughts on this? Thanks again, Kieran. Have you seen the Sphere?
Yeah.
In Las Vegas? It's really
They're
cool.
making another one in Dubai.
Didn't they want to do one in London? It could have been like a rumor, but they're like trying to get more of them. And of course, U2 did a concert because they're just like the go-to vanilla artist to get for these types of things.
They are now. I don't mind early U2.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. I'm saying like if you were to cycle like the corporate friendly,
the mass big budget, absolutely.
Of course, in Taken, the daughter is following U2 around Europe.
Yeah, absolutely makes no sense.
What band? U2.
U2. What, a teenage girl in 2008 who's 17. Big fan of U2. Right.
George, cinema experiences outside of the films being better, right? what
could
can
enhance?
cinemas do, like maybe as a gimmick or like enhancing the current cinema experience? I feel like a lot of it's become consolidated into your large. They're leaning into that large IMAX experience. And you cannot replicate this at home.
I think it all comes down to location, actually, a little bit. I think try and make your cinema spaces really welcoming, warm, and interesting to be in. And obviously, the corporate people would read that as slap a cafe, slap a thingy, and all that stuff. And like, yeah, that makes sense. But like, really think about the user's experience, the customer's experience from the moment they walk through the door to the moment they leave, and like making it a really special thing that they develop. You want people to kind of develop an emotional connection, a warm emotional connection with going to the cinema that isn't entirely dependent on the film. So that even though they go and see a film that might not work for them, they go, I didn't mind going because it was a nice environment, I had a nice time, it was a pleasant experience. You know, I always think about with the BFI IMAX, one of the best screens we love going to in the you know, if we were to go to only one cinema for the rest of our lives, it would be the IMAX. Terrible arrival at that building. It is on this roundabout, if you know the BFI IMAX in London.
Right. And from a city planning perspective, it's a good use of negative space.
Use of site, but to get there, you have to go through these underpasses as well, which are completely outdated, urban bit of design, but are awful and unwelcoming and unfriendly and badly
so
lit.
Bad,
you know, really. And every time I walk through it, and I'm like, if you really wanted to make this cinema special, you have to throw money at making these underpasses, which are structurally integral to getting to the cinema, part of the experience. The experience starts there. Otherwise, you have people arrive at your cinema feeling strange, and all these things matter in terms of design. So I would say make the cinema as a whole experience nice and get people to develop a connection to it so they can have nice memories and want to go there on a day out.
I really like cinemas where the gap between the concession stand and the screen itself is used well. So like it's, you know, there is inherently like you walk down a dark path with a series of doors, and behind each door is like a different story being told. Really good cinemas have a lovely sense of like I'm descending down into my dark room.
World
they do
building.
them really well. Like you could do stuff with fun lights, make it a little bit Hollywood, a little bit glamorous. There's a particularly bad cinema near where I live that I've only been to once and I vowed never to go to again. I also saw Blue Beetle there, which was rubbish. And it's a major chain in the UK for cinema brands, and it is the worst multiplex I've ever been to. The seats are disgusting, ripped, gross leather. I was itchy after I left it. The screen quality was bad. The whole like concession area was gross and run down. And I just would never go there again. There are too many lovely options in London.
But also, I have this. I've got two cinemas near me, basically equidistant, right? Same brand. One of them is only got 3 screens, but really good quality. It's like a deluxe. And then the other one has like 16 screens, but really worse quality, like not a great experience. So when we need to see stuff for the show, often it's the second one, the bigger one, that is more viable option. But I feel it when I look at the options. I go, oh, but that's really. It's not cold. It's not temperature cold, but I feel cold when I think of the options there. And like I had to go see Megalopolis there, which didn't help at all. And again, these sort of triggers that we have of association really matter. So that's what I'd say. Before any gimmicks of like, this screen has this and that. A good example, right? A good example is the cinema that I grew up with back home. That was getting very tired, very old, very dated. And then they had a huge renovation, refit. And what they realized is, in the screen, was that they stripped out all the old seats, the little fold-down flip seats, and replaced them with massive, big, comfy recliners, which are probably half the number of seats, but you will make that back because the experience is so much nicer, so people will return every time. And that cinema, every time I go there now, when I go home, it's always busy and people are always talking about how nice it is. And that's just the key. It's like quality of
It's understanding that like when you conceptualize how you want to spend your time in an evening, if that place isn't comfortable or approachable or welcoming, you probably won't go.
No,
exactly.
exactly.
Just sit at home. And they are competing with the living room, which chances are is like fairly comfortable. And all content ever, you've got to make it good. I really like the Curzon near me in Camden. They've done that really nicely.
Well,
lovely arches under the railway. It's very well done.
All the boutique, the Curzons, the Everymans, the picture houses. That's their MO.
It's more expensive, but it's very comfortable.
That's what you're paying for. But it's not. I think the other cinemas can learn to just a simple bit of augmenting just your redesign and refreshing instead of getting this sort of sanitized, sterile, hospital-like. The one in Brighton we used to go to, the multiplex, that was really depressing.
Yeah. Because they serve really different purposes. Sometimes like the cinema is this like quiet, twinkly escape with just yourself or with another friend, and it's like this more intimate experience. And sometimes like you want to get excited, you want the event, you want to feel like you're in a bustling place with energy, an arena. You get there and it's all there, like the Leicester Square view or the Leicester Square Cineworld. That's a fun place to see a great film.
Yeah,
because it's full of energy and it's big and it's not too uncomfortable and it matches the energy of what you're going to see, which is hopefully a good film. So they all have to do very different things. But those are all the emails we had for this week, guys. Thank you so much for sending them in. Don't forget, you can support us on Patreon and have priority access to have your email read out onto the show, or you can just send your emails in, as always, your thoughts, your questions, your concerns, your reviews to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com, and we will read them out on the show. George, should we play a game?
Let's play a game. I'm sort of singing like Emilia Pérez.
That's how Rex Harrison sings in My Fair Lady. He sings.
Yes.
So like he pay close attention. He very rarely goes into chorus, but he's like, but let a woman in your life. Why can't the English learn to speak? Like he hits the notes, but he's not bellowing. Masterful performance from Rex Harrison in My Fair Lady. Loved it.
I haven't seen that in a while.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I like it. Saw it on stage, yeah.
So good. George, as always, Pulp Kitchen ends
with a game.
We are in the middle of prepping games for our quiz. I've even thought up some new spins on some of the games we play, but like I'm in quiz time now, I've got to save them. But fear not, I do have a game for you today. It is a classic. It is Cast List Countdown.
Oh, okay.
For those of you who don't know or are new to the show, I'm going to list the members of a cast, and George has to guess what film the cast members are in before I get to the main star. I'll start with some supporting characters and slowly work my way up towards the leading actors, and you see if you can guess the film before George gets it. George, are you ready to play Cast List Countdown? I've got two films
Let's
for you
do
today.
it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. You have to guess the film from its cast. Ready? Jason Fleming. Henry Cavill. David Walliams. Ian McKellen. Rupert Everett. Ricky Gervais. Robert De Niro. Kate McGowan. Ben Barnes. Sienna Miller.
This is a voice cast.
Michelle
Real life.
Pfeiffer.
Oh. Whoa.
Claire Danes.
Whoa. Stardust.
Yes.
Wow.
Charlie Cox.
Never seen it.
You've not seen... Oh, I do know this.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
I know, absolutely.
It's
I
brilliant.
know, absolutely. Everyone's told me Matthew Vaughn, isn't it?
Matthew Vaughn. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know it's respected. It's got a bit of a cult status. But I haven't seen it. But I had no idea those first bunch of people would. I know
That's
Gervais
what I thought
is in
I'd
it.
throw you. So Henry Cavill's in a really small role. It's before Henry Cavill was Henry Cavill.
Yes.
He plays like the evil boyfriend, and he's in a scene. But I thought I'd throw you by putting Henry Cavill in early.
Yes.
And like, look, just Henry Cavill, Jason Fleming, Ian McKellen, who's the narrator, Rupert Everett, Ricky Gervais, Robert De Niro, Kate McGowan, Ben Barnes, Sienna Miller, Michelle Pfeiffer, Claire Danes, Charlie Cox.
What's Kate McGowan been in?
I don't know.
Oh,
But
she's
in
on the
this.
list.
Yeah, she's on the list. She's a semi-important role in the film.
No,
so
no disrespect to Kate McGowan. I'm sure you did
I
it a lot.
can't- I don't
Off
know
the
what
top
else
of
she's
my
in.
head,
Top of my head, yeah.
oh, well, fantastic.
I think that is a wonderful Christmas film that isn't a Christmas film to
I'll watch
watch
it.
at Christmas.
It's also like an original IP fantasy kind of story, right?
Totally. It's like
You know what, James?
really fun fairy
I'm going
tale.
onto my letterbox right now. I'm going to add that to my watch list.
it's-
You can
it's
follow me
good.
on Letterboxd at George
I assume
Pulp.
everyone loves Stardust. I've never spoken to anyone who's rubbish. They've all gone, oh yeah, that was so much fun. It's a proper little fairy tale.
Okay, Stardust.
Michelle Pfeiffer's brilliant in it. She's the Wicked Witch, trying to stay alive forever. She needs to eat the heart of a dying star.
Wow, interesting. Okay, Stardust.
Next up, George, you have to guess the film from the cast. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Keith Allen. Michael Gambon.
Live action again? No, is it live action? Because you have to tell me if it's not. If it's not, then I get
It is.
live action again.
Halle Berry. Jeff Bridges. Pedro Pascal. Channing Tatum.
Yes, this is Kingsman 2.
Yes.
The Golden Circle.
Yes.
Not
Also-
seen, but widely regarded to be terrible.
Oh, I wouldn't say it's widely regarded. I think a lot of people enjoyed it.
The second one, I've not heard a single review interaction.
I've seen people like saying, "Oh, yeah, it's great fun."
The second one,
yeah.
I thought it was a train wreck.
I didn't like it either. Yeah, remaining cast members: Zachary, Julianne Moore, Mark Strong, Colin Firth, Taron Egerton, Elton John would have been my last one if you hadn't got that. Also, a Matthew Vaughn film, coincidentally.
Yes, I'm sorry, I've not seen it, but everyone who I've ever met,
you see
and
one?
everything I've read about it, I like the first one.
Yeah.
Says the second one is garbage, and that's why they had to do a hard reset, and then they did The King's Man with Harris Dickinson, which I didn't see. Did you see?
No.
And are they doing any more? I don't
sure
know.
they are.
I think there's something in the works, isn't there?
I felt like
there was something. There was a Kingsman crossover at the end of Argyle as well, which again, terrible movie. I know it was like a real sort of.
I didn't know that.
I know.
Kingsman 1. So I said that really strangely. I feel like it got the line. It sat on that sort of beanpole of tone and comedy and action. Something about Kingsman 2 completely missed it for me.
Yeah.
And it tried to go bigger and more outrageous. And I just thought when Elton John was sort of like sumo kicking people midway through the hour, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm out here. That's done for me. But incredible cast: Keith Allen, Michael Gambon, Halle Berry, Jeff Bridges, Pedro Pascal, Channing Tatum, Julianne Moore, Mark Strong, Colin Firth, Taron Egerton, and Elton John. That's a big,
Would love
cool
to have
sheet.
seen all of those in other films.
Yes. You could make. I think Matthew Vaughn gets quite a good cast for his films.
I'm pretty sure I've done this for you, this cast.
Really?
But we've done it for so long that we forget. We
Chris.
reset.
We need new games. Constant, never ending. Those are the games for you guys today. We hope you enjoyed Castless Countdown. Sirens on our end. As we said, guys, we are in the middle of writing our new quiz, which we take a lot of joy in. So if you haven't got your tickets and you're interested in coming, please do Sirens on our end. Please do consider getting a ticket. We're going to Jeez, it's been particularly bad today.
It has been.
Consider getting a ticket, bringing your friends. We really cannot wait to do it. So,
we are.
It's going to be
a great night. We can't wait. We absolutely can't wait.
And then also, guys, Double Take is out. If you wanted to, the best way to support us would be to go and listen to our show, Double Take. The price per week is less than £2, and you get an entire episode of content. We work really hard to make it, and we really do enjoy doing it. So if you do enjoy what we do and you want to give us a hand, that would be amazing if you head over to the Patreon and support us there.
And when are you going to recommend to not do it through a browser?
Oh, yeah, another thing, by the way, so as with lots of stuff that Apple brokers for loads of apps, you're going to pay more if you subscribe to our Patreon on your phone, specifically your iPhone. So if you just, and Apple is charging 30% to host that payment, and all of the major companies like Spotify and Patreon and everyone who does payments on the iPhone is basically passing that cost on to you guys, but you can pay less if you subscribe to us on a browser. So it doesn't affect us, it only affects you. So if you do want to subscribe, just do it on a browser and you'll pay less per month and you'll just actually get what you're paying for versus just giving Tim Cook an extra bit of cash.
Don't let Apple rip you off, just an FYI. Yeah. But thank you for joining us as ever this week. We really appreciate it. We do enjoy doing this, and continue to follow us on social media and support us there. We'll be posting games and film bites and fun things we're doing. And it's been great. Have a great week.
Yep. New episodes every single Wednesday.
See you then, guys. Have a great week. See you next week.
Thank you to our producers, Aidan, Finn, and Dave.
We got a new producer.
New producers.
Three producers, the three amigos.
Hi there, Dave. Nice to see you.
Thank you to our producers, as ever. Have a great week, guys. Ta-ra.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.